From the untouched Alaskan wilderness to the arid deserts of the Southwest, from the vast and wild expanses of the American Rockies to the beautiful solitude of the Appalachian hardwoods, from the abundant Great Lakes, prairies, and potholes to the diverse southern coastline teeming with wildlife, our natural resource agencies have been charged to safeguard the fish and wildlife populations held in the public trust for generations. I'm Carter Smith, and I'm the Executive Director of the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. And for all of us who have the privilege of working for the country's fish and wildlife natural resource agencies, and along with our public supporters, we want you to know that we have a long conservation history and heritage that you can be very proud of. State fish and wildlife agencies have a long history of success in conserving America's game species, thanks to the support of hunter and angler license fees and federal excise taxes through the Pittman-Robertson and Dingell-Johnson Acts. However, over 90% of our country's fish and wildlife species that are managed by the states are neither hunted nor fished, and until recently have fallen outside the purview of federal funding.
National Wildlife Federation has been advocating for 20 years now that we need to provide proper funding for wildlife, particularly for non-game wildlife that are really unfunded for the most part. And that's particularly urgent today because wildlife are being impacted from climate change and from all the other forces that have been at work for a long time. But they're catching up to wildlife. Scientists have warned us that we need to move quickly.
In 1994, over 400 sportsmen, conservationists, outdoor enthusiasts, and citizens from both the public and private sectors joined together to create the Teaming with Wildlife Coalition, now over 6,000 members strong, with the goal of securing dedicated funding to manage and conserve all of our nation's fish and wildlife. In 2000, the coalition celebrated both its first victory and critical milestone with the creation of the State Wildlife Grants Program, a new conservation initiative that provided dollars to every state and territory to support cost-effective and meaningful conservation. It's aimed at keeping common species common and preventing fish and wildlife from becoming endangered.
State wildlife action plans are America's roadmap to fish and wildlife stewardship at every scale of conservation action.
In order to make the best use of the State Wildlife Grants Program, Congress charged each state and territory with developing a comprehensive wildlife conservation strategy, also known as the State Wildlife Action Plan. These plans were designed to proactively conserve fish and wildlife before they became rare, while it's still cost-effective to protect them. Collectively identifying over 10,000 species, the plans outline specific, consensus-based steps developed by scientists, sportsmen, conservationists, and members of the public working together to assess, manage, and conserve these critical species and their habitats.
One of the projects we use the state wildlife grant funds for is our painted bunting project. What we're doing is actually tagging these birds, and then we're able to monitor their activities, monitor their movements. The end result, of course, is going to be that we don't see these species that are being addressed end up on the endangered species list.
Since inception, the State Wildlife Grants Program has provided over $600 million to states, resulting in the acquisition or lease of over 94,000 acres of wildlife habitat. These grants have provided support for the trap and transfer of 3.5 million animals to restore fish and wildlife populations, enable the enhancement of more than 1.4 million acres of wildlife habitat, engaged more than 24,000 landowner partners by providing technical assistance, and supported the coordination and cooperation with other state and federal agencies, nonprofit partners, and others to work on wildlife action plans.
Americans are asking, what can I do to get involved? Well, this is a place where all Americans can get involved to help wildlife. This is an opportunity to step up and to demand that we properly fund the wildlife resources of this country.
The State Wildlife Grant Program, helping to conserve wildlife in natural places, thereby protecting clean air and clean water and enhancing our own quality of life. Since its inception, the State Wildlife Grants Program has helped us fulfill our responsibility to conserve wildlife in the places they live for future generations. On behalf of the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department and the over 6,000 member organizations supporting the Teaming with Wildlife Coalition, we want to thank you for your support of the State Wildlife Grant Program as we move into the next decade of conservation action and conservation success.